Hello, how are ya? I'm just hopping into this, but I guess this is a part of the journey of being okay with change and knowing that no matter how much you prepare, it's never going to be enough, and that's okay. So, yes, good day. I hope that you have your tea. We're going to be talking about change, navigating through change, and all of that good stuff. You want to say hello? After yes. Okay, probably not then. Probably not. But things change, my brother. You must learn these lessons. There's a time for everything under the sun. Okay, alright, well, let's dive into this a little bit and kind of like explore this idea of that there's a time and a place for everything under the sun. I don't know why I put the sun there. It just is. And yeah, that's just how it is. Okay. But for real, I guess we should get serious here because we're only gonna have so much time. And time is a really, really important thing. So what's good, by the way, beautiful souls, Roberto, Cosmic Being, JT. Let's just talk a little bit about it because things are changing. And it's beautiful to be part of this change. And I'm just gonna vibe with you guys. We're gonna talk about change and navigating through change. And probably, what's good, Isaiah? I love you, bro. And being okay with the things that are changing in our lives constantly. So I've been thinking about this because things are changing. I think like it's spring in the hemisphere of the planet where I'm at, and this concept of the plants kind of growing and just people kind of just reflecting on my own growth and those around me, seeing them grow as well. It's pretty clear that a change is upon us, and it's exciting because, you know, who doesn't like a good change? But at the same time, it's kind of like nerve-wracking because of the unknown, because you don't know what lies beyond the other side. And so it's so important for us to kind of ground into this unknowing and kind of reflect on this of our comfort zone. You could see like the center is where we feel most comfy. We feel comfy in the middle because that's where all of the predictable things in our lives are. We know, you know, what is within our sphere of control, and so we feel safe. Yet there's so much without, you know, out of us that is not technically even, we can't control it. And that's what changes really is. Those changes of, you know, the inevitable, the things that you can't control, like time. And this is a part that draws us out of our comfort zone in a way. It makes us grow from where we might have been comfy, and it kind of forces us out of this egg that we've created for ourselves, where we've been nurtured like a sanctuary. We are almost forced to make another kind of a larger space for ourselves from this. And those growing pains are real. They're really felt, definitely. But also it's really exciting because, you know, it's showing that you are expanding as a soul and as a human, and your experience is valid and beautiful. And yeah, it's so interesting that we know what it feels like to be in control of things, but we also know that ultimately we're not really in control of very much. We can only control how we navigate through the things that we cannot control. And the inevitable change that comes through our lives is pretty random. You can't really predict when somebody's going to die, or life altering events are going to happen in your life. You can only control how you choose to navigate, what you choose to focus on during those times, and how you choose to direct your energy. And it can be difficult. We forge relationships based off of this understanding that, hey, we're going through similar changes, whether it's, we're in the same family, or, we are struggling with the same kind of things. We create this connection with other people based off of the changes that are happening presently in our life. And I think that's a really cool thing. And it's a blessing that we're able to connect with others and forge this bond to assist one another in the changes that happen. But there's also this aspect that each person can choose to change from the change. Does that make sense? Like, you all get the energy, the situation. It's gonna hit you, and then it's kind of up to you as how you choose to use that energy, how you choose to interpret that, and what perspective you have in terms of how that will affect your life, or how you are going to maneuver that energy to that outcome. It's kind of cool because, again, we have to honor all of the connections and the relationships that we're in, understanding that even if we've come from a situation with similar situations, and how, inevitably we were put in a place where maybe we could take the whole of the past 2 years and how that forced many people to change change the patterns in their way of living, whether it was their perspective of God, or their how they look at other people, how they literally do their daily life. And that's really, really powerful. And you can see that even though this change, like, nobody could have really predicted it until it happened, was it then validated, and then we're forced to change in some way, and now we're seeing those who are taking that responsibility for that energy. Yeah, we can't really control how we change. Let me reword this. We can't really control what change comes our way in life, what aspects of our lives change and when. But we can control what we do with, what we're given. We can always choose to see what we focus on and how we plan to use that energy. And really, change is just a shifting of energy, right? It can't be destroyed or created. So it's just cycled through in a new way. So when something is changing, it's just transforming itself into a new stimulation for your being to be with. And that's a blessing. It's really, really cool. And we can kind of take this energy that's shifting. We can do like one of two things, and I'm sure there are more things you can do, but you can either take responsibility for it and say that, this change came my way into my life, and I'm using my energy to perceive it, and I take responsibility for how I'm perceiving it and how I choose to allow it to affect me. Or you could blame it on the change and say, this is a change I didn't want, and I can't control it, and therefore I can't control my energy or how I choose to use this energy, or how it ultimately transforms my life and influences or triggers more change, in what direction, what that looks like. Because change is something that's constant. It's like the one thing that we can count on that will always be happening. Something is always going to be changing. Nothing is going to stay the same. Yeah, there's nothing new underneath the sun, but there are still ways that this cycles through, and honoring where you are in that cycle and what that lifespan or that energy, what kind of shifts are happening. It is important to just be aware. So yeah, it's good to be aware of the changes that are happening and to trust that they're all happening for a reason. I think the more trust that you have, that even the changes that you may see as like, oh no, this is so bad, and or sad, or something that you just ultimately did not want at all, still technically has such a purpose that you can use. And if it's especially something that seems to be on the polarized opposite side of what you want, using that to leverage to get closer to what you do want is so powerful. And I think that changes just open these portals or these pathways that we ourselves would not. If we had control over all of the energy and there was nothing that was out of our control, then a lot of the changes that actually lead to the best parts of our experience probably wouldn't happen because we wouldn't be conscious of how to make that happen. So that's a big one, and that's a tea for today. The tea. This is chamomile and mint tea. It's a really nice nighttime blend. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to acknowledge this change in our lives and what it really, really it can do in terms of harnessing that energy and using it. And we're all going through these changes and these shifts and all of this different energy, and it's so cool to see because, of course, we're all going to have different perspectives. Somebody who passes away, there are many ways that we can take that kind of change, that inevitable part of life, and transform it to assist us in our own transformation, in our own life's journey, in the energy that we want to change. I guess the goal isn't to control change. The goal is to position yourself in such a way that you are equipped to handle and I'm trying to think of the word. Improve is coming, like improve on all aspects. Regardless if the change you could label as positive or negative, the goal is to receive or to create a positive outcome with the changes that come your way. You should take it. If it's a good change, then great, moves you closer to that positive outcome. If it's a bad change, then good, it moves you closer to that positive outcome. Peace and love, meditative juice. I hope that you are having an amazing timeline wherever you are, fam. Much love. And I guess getting a little bit more comfy with your like worst fears, if they did happen. If you couldn't control that aspect, things changed and your worst fears happened, which some of them are more dire than others, I'm sure. But then imagine that ultimately that worst fear leads to the greatest joy that you have in your heart as well. And so you resisting that change it kind of caused that situation of just reaching a point where you are able to change for the best. I hope that this is making sense. The way I'm seeing change right now, or how it's coming to me, is very much like a wave. It's like a wave, and it just flows. And now what happens is a lot of the times we get overwhelmed because it looks like a very threatening, like big wave that's gonna knock us over, and obviously we don't want to be knocked over. That just would kind of be unfortunate. But we need to allow this water to flow through us because it's very much also like our veins. We can't stop our heart from beating. we need this flow of energy to continue. So even though we cannot control the way that the change happens, the shifts in the energy happen, we can control how we direct our attention, and in turn how future changes kind of affect us. I think that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Hopefully you got kind of the understanding from that. So it's important to kind of give ourselves space to think about, how do we want this change to affect us? Like, how do we want this change to, I guess, how do you want to change? How do you want to change? And that's, the main question. I think it's something I'm still learning, like, just to be okay with the things that happen and being spontaneous with life, knowing that I don't know what the best outcome is. I really don't. I have an idea with my limited mind, but I need to let go and surrender in order for myself to be okay with how life, changes, how things shift, and to know that that energy, whatever is happening, is going to be released and set back into the world in order to be experienced through a new sensation. And so that's a blessing, and I'm learning to be okay with the change and be okay with not really knowing what that change is going to look like, but having a clear feeling of how I plan to direct my energy regardless of how things change around me. So really navigating through change, it goes back to being okay with not being in control of everything. We can't be in control of everything, and sometimes things happen and it kind of sucks, and that's just kind of how the world works. But guess what? You can take that energy, you can tap into it, and you can receive such deep and profound meaning from the parts of life that honestly nobody wants, like death and sadness and grief, and the other parts of life that happen that honestly we probably want them not to happen, but they do, and to find a way to create purpose and to change in that direction. I think that ultimately we as humans just want to feel like we've served our purpose here on Earth. And so it's important for us to not be discouraged when things change, maybe not in our favor. I'm learning for my own self that, you might have plans and you might think things have to go this way, but ultimately it's up to God and how, Source handles and directs the energy. That's really what it goes back to. And the more that you trust this, the more that you trust that actually, I don't need to control everything. I don't have to try to manipulate all this energy so that it stays and goes in the direction that I want to, but I can actually surrender and allow this energy to change. And I'm gonna trust so much. And pay attention to the energy that changes in a way that is for my favor, and that I understand what to do in that time when it does change. Nothing is permanent, and I'm learning that more and more every day. Every single moment is fleeting. What's good, John Smith? And yes, Larry and Gear, change does equal growth. That's such a big one. And the growing pains are real. We can't really predict what part of our being is going to grow, and when. We can't predict when, the people that we love are going to go, or the situations are inevitably going to change in our lives. So this brings us to this, I guess, last thought, which is savor each moment. Savor each moment. It's only going to last for so long. And even the bad moments that we don't really want, they also are going to be gone. They're not going to last forever, and we don't have to, and of course we don't want them to. So honoring them will reduce any kind of resistance that we have, and we'll get the most out of our experience here, because we're equipped to understand that change is an inevitable, constant part of life, and nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. So tap into an energy where you can honor the change that happens and get creative with how you use that change in your life to better yourself and just enjoy life more. That's the goal. So it really isn't about focusing on the change. It's not about thinking, okay, when's this gonna happen? When's this gonna happen? How can I prepare for this? It's about really being present and knowing that in each moment as things change, you'll be equipped with whatever you need to receive and to have the best case scenario outcome in every single moment. And the more you're present in that moment, the more you'll see this to be true, because that's what you're focusing on. That's where your energy will go. So, yeah, I think it's pretty cool that we can create some really cool change in our lives and others. And, yeah, I could keep going on, and I totally appreciate being able to create some really cool art with you and understand this concept of being okay with change and kind of growing with it. Allowing it to teach us, okay, where do we need to go? What do we need to accept in our lives? What triggers change for you? I'd love to know. As I'm reflecting on my own being, I find that I think sadness or detachment is a big shift of change for me, whether I'm detaching from a person or an identity or a habit or a routine. That detachment triggers change, because there's emptiness that wants to be filled. And so, of course, my being is going to almost like launch into looking for what would be the best change at this time. I can't control what I'm detaching from sometimes, but I can control what I attach to. And yeah, I think that's really the moral of the story, my friends. That's the moral of the story. You cannot control what's good, what you detach from and when. You can't control who comes and goes, or what happens ultimately with all of the things happening in the planet. But you can control what you attach to, what ideas or words or people, that you subscribe to. So be wise and enjoy this blessing that you have. I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know, what kind of change is coming next for the planet. I could speculate and share my thoughts, but I don't know, and I'm not too worried on it, to be honest. I think that it's going to work out as it should, and I trust that it will, and I see and perceive that in every single moment, and I think it gives me more, I feel more assured as I continue to reflect and know this. So that's been a blessing, and I feel very blessed in many ways. Not that I know everything, but I do know that in each moment I am okay. And that is a blessing. So, yeah. That is a sigil for blessing. I kind of like it. And this is a sigil for bliss and blessing. Oh, yeah. Okay. But yeah, I think that this is pretty good. I'm gonna close for now and just take one last zoom out. But yeah, we just talked about change today. We talked about all of this stuff. And we created some cool art. It was pretty fun. I do enjoy doing these types of videos because it helps me get a lot of thoughts out of my mind. And it's quite honestly a lot easier to just see what's going on and, you know, be more clear with what's going on. So this was super fun. I enjoyed it, and now I got this cool, beautiful drawing that I can post somewhere and play with and reflect that we have created here, and you saw it happen in real time. So that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like without my face in the background. But let's be real, you probably like my face. I like my face in the background. It gives it some more pizzazz. Aha. Yes. Yes. Alright, but yeah, that's really all I have. I hope that you continue to grow through all of the change that faces you through whatever and however that looks like, and that you know that you are equipped for it, because you definitely are. It is a blessing that we are able to change in every single moment. Every single moment, everything is changing. Even though it's only a little bit that we perceive, it's actually changing quite a lot. And that's really cool. And Larry and Gary, you're right. I think that every second we change with our thoughts as well. Everything is changing. But it's just such a little change, sometimes we don't notice it. But it does gain momentum quite quickly and continue to grow. So be okay. You can't control everything, and that's okay. But there are little changes that you can do every day, that are happening every day, that you do have control over, that create such a ginormous amount. So you got this. Do that little change that will help you today, tomorrow, and the rest of your life. And thank you for joining today's tea time. I appreciate you, and I pray that you will be equipped to handle any change that comes your way harmoniously and gracefully, because you got this. It's good. Change is coming. We can't control how that's going to look like, but we can control what kind of, I guess, how we handle it. And that's the important part. Time is temporary, so enjoy whatever changes come your way. Cheers. Love ya. That was a good cheers.